So now let's look at another organization, one of these, people, the National Rifle Association, that states that it's there to protect your Second Amendment rights. I think it's known, but I think it's good to illustrate what is the public image of the National Rifle Association.
In an effort to energize the gun rights activists, he released this incendiary fundraising letter.
That the semi-auto ban gives jackbooted government thugs more power to take away our constitutional rights, break in our doors, seize our guns, destroy our property, and even injure or kill us.
Aren't you concerned when you say Nazi bucket helmets, government thugs, kicking down doors, killing, maiming people? Aren't you inciting people? Aren't you willing now to apologize for the tone of this letter?
Those words are not far. In fact, they're a pretty close description of what's happening in the real world.
Wow, look at that hero, man. He is sticking it to them. He is calling out those pesky Democrats as those gun grabbers that they are, and that they're there to protect your God-given rights. And that, oh my, look at, he is, calling out the government for being the jackbooted thugs that they are. And he is standing up to that liberal Tim Russert. Man, he is going to show him what's up. That's the public image. Again, words versus fruits. So we look at the real NRA, according to their own records, their own words. They received government funding from their inception in the 1800s all the way up till the 1970s. In the 1920s, they actually pushed for gun control measures in 9 states requiring a permit to carry a gun. The NRA, before the NRA gets involved, there's no permit. You don't have to get government permission to carry a gun. NRA gets involved and they push a bill that says you need government permission to carry a gun. And a waiting period and a record of purchase going to the government. So because the NRA, we now have records of who purchases guns. They lobbied to ban mail order sales of guns in 1967. Prior to 1967 and the NRA's pushing of a bill, you could buy a gun just right over the mail. In 1968, they lobbied for tracking of guns and banning the shipment across state lines unless you were licensed. You got government permission to do so. Okay? In their own publication, The American Rifleman, in 1968, they bragged about their involvement of pushing more government intrusion into your right of self-defense, saying the NRA supported the National Firearms Act of 1934, which taxes and requires registration of such firearms as machine guns, sawed-off rifles, and sawed-off shotguns. NRA's support of federal gun legislation did not stop with the earlier Dodd bills. It currently backs several Senate and House bills, which through amendment would put new teeth into the national and federal firearms acts, bragging about their taking away your right to defend yourself. Further on, it says the NRA supported the Federal Firearms Act of 1938, which regulates interstate and foreign commerce in firearms and pistol or revolver ammunition, not just the guns, but in government control of the ammunition itself. The NRA supported the original Dodd bill to amend the Federal Firearms Act in regard to handguns when it was introduced as Senate Bill 1975 in August of 1963. Can you believe this? So the real NRA we have here, again, the same guy that was on Tim Russert saying, these guys are jackbooted thugs, and we have him supporting. So we have the The free speech zones, and now the NRA, who's supposed to be supporting your Second Amendment, is saying, we want you to have Second Amendment free zones where you're not allowed to be able to protect yourself. We think it's reasonable to expect full enforcement of federal firearms laws by the federal government. That's why we support Project Exile, providing 5 years federal prison for violations such as having a folding stock or bayonet. The NRA wants you to spend 5 years in federal prison for simply having a stock that folds or a knife at the end of your gun. This is the guys standing up against jackbooted thugs. The Constitution authorizes 0 restrictions on your right of self-defense. But the NRA, promoting themselves as defending the Second Amendment, wants to destroy the Second Amendment and is working to destroy it. Now they're actually, back after that with the Patriot Act, after the 9/11 attack on the Twin Towers, the demolition of the Twin Towers, they actually opposed gun owners and expanding the government's powers in the unconstitutional Patriot Act. You had Rand Paul actually introduce legislation to stop this, and the NRA opposed Rand Paul's amendment, saying there have been no reports of the current Patriot Act being abused. The whole thing's an abuse. With respect to firearms records, however, supporters suggest a far-fetched scenario in which every firearm sales record in the country, tens or hundreds of millions of documents dating back to 1968, could be sought. Of course, it's being put into databases at this time, and so they opposed actually preserving your right to privacy and your right to defend yourself. They backed language that allows the BATF now to get access to every gun owner's purchase going back decades.